New year, same old result against Ohio State as the Buckeyes take down the Nittany Lions 20-12. Tim Aiden from Black Shoe Diaries. Patrick Kerbor is probably somewhere in Columbus right now, curled up in the fetal position, crying in the corner. So in his place, once again, our old pal Lando. How you feeling?
Like you said, same old, same old. It's I'm not, devastated because this has happened before, but I'm also not, obviously I'm not happy about the way the game went. I had my sneaking suspicions that this could happen, but certainly not quite what I expected offensively.
You and I both. And yes, I know you projected in the Black Shoe Diaries prediction round table yesterday that Ohio State will win because you've been hurt too many times before, and I certainly didn't blame you. In the preseason, when I said Penn State would go 11-1, in my mind, I thought the lone loss would come in at Ohio State. But like just watching the Penn State play, especially like the defense and and how efficient, if not explosive, the offense looked over the first 6 games, and seeing how Ohio State seemed to have some trouble, especially in the offensive line against teams like Maryland. It just kind of made me think, yeah, maybe this is the year we can change the narrative and come out and get the win. But yeah, I didn't think the offense would just look like whatever the hell that was. You had I think we basically were saying after Northwestern game, Penn State had 3 weeks to prepare for Ohio State. He had a bye week. He had UMass, which was practically like a glorified scrimmage. And he had this. And, defense absolutely showed up today. Like, you cannot pin this game on the defense. But the offense, good God. I don't know what that was. I don't know what the hell Mike Yursich was doing up there in the booth. We can get more, and I'm sure we'll get more into arguments about the coaches and who should be on a hot seat and all that later on. But it's you realize, okay, maybe you don't have a good group of wide receivers, so maybe try and make the tight ends more of a focal point in your pass game, or just, and also early on, it was the third drive of the game. They fed Nick Singleton a couple times, had a couple explosive runs. They, got them inside Ohio State's 30. And then what do? They go back to pass a couple times and the drive ends up stalling. Now they do kick a field goal to tie the game, but, it really felt like they could have potentially put up 6 on that drive if they had at least tried to keep going with the run game until they were able to, so they could stop it. So that, but I don't know for you. I don't know about you, Lando, but it felt for me, really, it's easy to say in retrospect too, but even at the time, it felt to me like where the game truly turned in Ohio State's favor was, on what ended up being their touchdown drive. Penn State seems to get a scoop and score off a sack, Kyle McCord, but unfortunately, Curtis Jacobs' touchdowns erased due to a defensive holding call against their secondary, and Ohio State ends up reaching the end zone of that drive anyway. That just felt like a real backbreaker. Although, to the team's credit, the defense still kept making plays, giving Penn State countless opportunities to get a touchdown when they really needed a touchdown, instead of just scoring in garbage time. And just, they gave them chance after chance, and just the offense just could not capitalize. They just, when you keep going 3 and out or just moving the chains once before punting, eventually your D is going to get gassed. They're going to give up some big plays. And, that's ultimately what happened in the end, even if it took a bit longer than maybe would have thought. But, hey, Lando, just maybe what were your thoughts just overall on the day?
Well, I certainly agree with you that the turning point was that scoop and score that was not to be by Curtis Jacobs. But I think lots of different things you can point to. You can point to, I mean, the penalties in the first half really killed Penn State. Even on that drive after that defensive holding, I know there was a unnecessary roughness later in that drive that led to the eventual touchdown. The pass protection was not was not what it's been, and then I'm trying to find positives, and I think the offensive line showed that they could, create some holes and lanes for the running game. But I mean, when you have, I mean, both Singleton and Allen had 9 carries. Singleton had almost 5.5 yards a carry, but because they weren't able to move the ball through the air, then they had to rely on the run, and then they seemed like they panicked at the end of the game, towards the end of the in the fourth quarter. And to your point about the play calling, when the running game was having success on that third drive, and then they went away from the run, and then conversely they had the opposite situation. I thought when they had a couple big completions to tight ends to Tyler Warren. He broke a tackle, got about close to 15 yards on the pass play, and then the next play, Theo Johnson got downfield, and then they had a 3rd and 5 on that drive, and they had already shown that they were able to, get some success on the passing game, and they had a draw play. They ran a draw play. So the play calling definitely is questionable. Of course, I'm not as experienced as Mike Yurcich, so I don't have the coaching acumen that he does, but yeah. I mean, from a third person perspective, it's hard to okay that. The wide receivers continue to really be disappointing. Lots of drops. The leading receiver, which is Condre Lambert-Smith, had 6 catches of 52 yards. I thought the defensive line looked pretty good, all things considered. Chop Robinson's injury is definitely a big concern going forward. Adisa Isaac had a very solid game, several tackles for loss. So as far as positives, again, I think the defensive line kind of stepped it up in that sense. Defensive backs, I mean, when you allow, I mean, he Marvin Harrison is one of the best. Best receivers in the country, about 11 catches, 162 yards, and a touchdown that sealed it. And I mentioned to you before we started that he did the Saquon touchdown celebration, but I was talking to one of my friends who's an Ohio State fan, and she was saying that he's not even 100%. So imagine what he would have been like at 100%. And so the secondary, with the exception of Daquan Hardy early on, I think that was they kind of got exposed a little bit. The receivers, Ohio State receivers, were also open many times, and Kyle McCord missed them, or they dropped the ball. So, but McCord almost had 300 yards. So, so that's, I mean, for this guy who's kind of the thing that's holding Ohio State back, he didn't do too badly overall. And I think that was, like you said, that's the defense just got tired. And again, the one other positive is special teams. Alex Falcons hit a couple 40-yard field goals. Riley Thompson averaged almost 44 yards on his 9 punts. And then the only other thing that really stuck out to me that we haven't directly addressed yet is that those third down conversions. I mean, 0 for your first 15, 1 for 16 for the game. Like, that's obviously not going to get it done. So, trying to see some rays of sunshine, but it's difficult when this happens year after year.
Yeah, and then of course, going 1 of 16 on third downs is not going to cut it, especially against Ohio State. But in a lot of games, yeah. But I think I remember a comment up here. Someone's going to give credit to both defenses. I agree. Ohio State's defense, they knew Penn State didn't have a receiver who's going to beat them over the top, and they game planned accordingly. And sure enough, last game was just not there. Now, how much of that's I was seeing a lot of back and forth in like the in-game threads on Blackshot Diaries and our site. Is that Drew Aller's fault? Is it the receiver's fault? Mike Yurcish's fault? I mean, it's kind of it's a combination of everything. Aller did. We know hasn't played as well on the road as he plays at home this year, and today that reared its ugly head. But you know what? When you don't have when you lack a receiving room, like just you give us Ohio State's receiving depth chart. I have no doubt Drew Aller is a much better stat line. Like we don't obviously forget the Nami and Marvin Harrison Jr. We don't have an Emeka Egbuka or maybe even the Julian Fleming type guy on the roster right now. I mean, Condley Amber Smith is our best guy, and most other like top-notch programs, he's probably like a receiver number 3 option at best. I mean, it's just, I don't know. There needs to be a massive revamping of the receiver room. I don't know what the solution is there. I'm not being paid the big bucks like new receiver coach Marcus Higgins is to figure that out. But, obviously that's been the biggest glaring issue. But Drew, of course, Drew does have room for improvement as well. He's got the physical tools, but it just seems like him and maybe in the receiver, he doesn't seem to have a receiver besides Lambert Smith, maybe to a lesser extent Trey Wallace that he really trusts. Like in past years, with Sean Clifford and say last year Parker Washington or Jahan Dotson the year before that. And then KJ Hamler before that. There's always one big playmaking receiver that he could trust, that he could feed the rock to in a time of need. And it just doesn't seem like Drew has that guy to do so. Like Keandre Smith's the closest thing to that. And, he hasn't exactly lit the world on fire this season. So, that's definitely that's got to get cleaned up if they're gonna ever gonna win these kinds of games, and of course, you got Michigan in a few weeks, which we'll forget about that for a second. You got Indiana coming in next week, which should be a get right type of game. It's in Happy Valley. Indiana is maybe arguably the worst team in the Big Ten, and they got beat by Rutgers today at home. And so, that feels like a get right type game before you go to Maryland the week after that. And yeah, Maryland's, they look good again, but that's a game, I expect it to be competitive, but it's also, I think we said this before, like that's just one game where it doesn't matter how good or bad they are. Like Penn State just seems dialed in when they're playing Maryland. I think that'll just always be the case as long as James Franklin's the head coach. So if you take care of business in those games, they get Michigan. I mean, it's another opportunity to maybe get a signature win on the season. Although the way they played today, I can't say I'm optimistic about that, even if it is in Happy Valley. But Lando, just your thoughts on next few weeks.
Yeah, well, I mean, like you said, I think that game could be sort of reminiscent of, Illinois in 2005 when it seemed like they just took out all the frustration of the Manningham touchdown the previous week and just, went out. I mean, Illinois, unfortunately, has been in that position a couple times for Penn State when they've come off a tough loss. Yeah, I mean, certainly the fact that it's at home also helps. Maryland's going to be tough. You would hope that given the fact that they have success in the DMV recruiting as well as the historical dominant, for lack of a better term, for Penn State will help. But this Maryland team's a lot better, so I think it's going to be closer than it's been certainly. And then the Michigan game, it's easy for me to say right now that I think it could be competitive in the first half, but I mean, if the Penn State offense plays the way they did today, Michigan's offense is going to wear the defense down way quicker than Ohio State's did. So that's the big concern I have. And again, this is an Ohio State team that did not have Denzel Burke. Their top defensive back didn't play. Emeka Buka, like you mentioned, he didn't play either. So that's, I mean, it's tough to be any bit encouraged right now at the the performance of Penn State in what was supposed to be their time to get Ohio State. It's nice to see some Ohio State fans being classy. Usually after every big game.
Well, that's because we have a defense, Daniel. If we didn't have a defense, then that would have been a touchdown loss.
Yeah.
Although the way our offense is playing, it certainly felt like we were down by 4 touchdowns. So I give you that. We got some. Speaking of which, we talked a little about Drew Hour earlier.
He's not a freshman, but he's a sophomore.
First-year starter, let's say. First-year starter, 7 games. I mean, that's my general philosophy. I guess time will tell if he becomes elite. We certainly got a little taste of that in the season opener of West Virginia when he threw that bomb to Lambert Smith, and we all maybe got a little too excited about that, thinking we'd be seeing those all season long. It's only 7 games into his career, and like I said, it's very night and day compared to how he performs at home versus on the road. So, we'll see. I mean, of course, I don't know. Maybe he'll have a different offensive coordinator next year. I don't know. I mean, do you think? I mean, there's part of me is wondering if you're just started feeling a little bit of heat here because I mean, come on, I say 2/3 of the team did what they needed to do today to give Penn State a chance to win. The offense just laid up an absolute stinker.
Mm-hmm.
And so, I mean, I just wonder what kinds of conversations are going to be had behind closed doors between Franklin and Yurcich. Because, I mean, obviously Franklin will also be super frustrated. He still can't get over the hump. And, it's just, I know this is his handpicked guy. He dumped Kirk Sherrock after 1 year, after a COVID year, mind you, when he didn't have a chance to really install his playbook in person with the team. And then he bring in yours, and he had some really good offenses at Oklahoma State, especially, but it's been disappointing overall, just especially in the bigger games. I thought we would have some more explosiveness in this offense, and it just hasn't been there. But yeah, I mean, I have to imagine there's definitely a lot of introspection on the offensive side of the staff at this point. And this will bring my next thing. I know obviously after losses like these, tons of heat comes on James Franklin. And look, any criticism he's getting right now, I mean, it's deserved, not going to say it's not deserved. But then I see comments saying fire him, or just imply he's holding us back, as if he's the reason that this team isn't able to get over the hump and win the Big Ten on a more regular basis. But at the same time, I just think this program just has some inherent limitations, and I don't see. I mean, I'd like to know who are they going to hire. Let's say Franklin just decided tomorrow to quit. Who are you bringing in? That's a realistic hire. I don't want to hear Nick Saban or Urban Meyer or whatever. Realistically, who's going to come in there and have the same level of success? Get more often than not, you're getting 10-2 type seasons, New Year's Six bowl appearances, and hey, maybe starting next year, with this 12-team playoff, 10-2 Penn State team would probably get in. So, we've all been waiting for that moment that Penn State makes a playoff. It could happen as soon as next year, perhaps. But, who do you bring in? And, so we were suggesting Matt Rule. And, I mean, come on. Like, I got respect for Matt Rule, but there's nothing about him that strikes me as a guy who is going to beat Ohio State and Michigan on a more regular basis than right now. Like, I just don't see how he elevates the program. And I mean, okay, if you take some young up and coming, like, group of 5 coach or something, like, again, same thing. Or maybe it's a guy coaching at a lesser Power 5 team. Same thing. Franklin was taken from Vanderbilt. I mean, a lesser Power 5 program. Like, that's what you're going to be getting. You're taking a huge chance. And I mean, probably a better chance that you don't hit the ceiling as much as you are right now with a different guy. I mean, it's very much a be careful what you wish for type thing. Like, better the devil that you know than the devil that you don't. Like, I feel Franklin is like the devil that we know. So, and I can tell you, as someone who's old enough to remember the dark years, and by the dark years for non-Penn State fans, I mean the early 2000s when Penn State had 4 losing seasons in the first 5 years of the 2000s, and it was a brutal time. So I know things can be a hell of a lot worse. But it doesn't, not that it makes it less frustrating when when things like these happen year after year. But I guess trying to keep a little bit of perspective here. But I'm sure with the commentary at him. Let's see. Devil that we know. Let's see the commentary has got anything to say here. Jamie Chadwell. I mean, he's an intriguing guy, but I gotta see how he does at a smaller Power 5 first before I get real high on Jamie Chadwell. Seems to be doing a decent job at Liberty right now. Obviously, we know he did a great job at Coastal Carolina. But the thing is, doesn't he run some kind of an triple option style offense? Like, I just don't. Maybe that's why he can't land a power conference job. Like, because no power conference team wants to run triple option. Did Franklin speak yet Postgame? I'm not sure, Jennifer. I really haven't been checking Twitter yet, or I don't have the postgame thing up. I'm sure I'll just maybe read a transcript later on.
It looks like there's some quote down here.
Oh, you know what? Before we get to that, I see a hold on. We have Andrew with the $10 comment. Thank you so much, Andrew. Ohio State fan. Good game. Have a beer on me. Don't forget that despite the odds, 10-6 into the third. Lots of good to reflect on. God bless. Thank you, Andrew, for the kind words. Of course, congrats to you guys again. It's obviously undefeated. Really, you guys control your own destiny at this point. It's pretty much your season's coming down in the Michigan game once again, it looks like. So, of course, that's much easier said than done, as we've seen the last couple of years. But that's why they play the games. Wow. It was rare. I don't think I've seen a Michigan fan think they can still lose to Penn State.
Level-headed comment.
Level-headed, or maybe a little too pessimistic. I don't know. I mean, now maybe it's also we're coming right off a game, so maybe we're just a little emotional right now, thinking we're definitely going to lose to Michigan. I'm sure maybe after a couple weeks, if we look improved in certain areas, maybe I'll change my tune a bit. But we'll see. Again, you're right. That's why they play these games on the field and not on paper.
So
would ever leave Nebraska. He's making over $10 million of sponsorships in Upper Sainthood in Nebraska. Maybe a little soon for the sainthood part, Phil. It's only his first year, but if they get him he's got a shot to get them to 6 wins in a bowl game. So he does that, I'm sure they'll be heaping a lot of praise. But thing is, Penn State, he's a state college high school graduate. His dad was actually my gym teacher in high school, Mr. Rule, really good guy. I'm sure if his son's anything like Mr. Rule, he's also a good guy. But he played at Penn State, so I mean he's a Nittany Lion deep down. That's I'll tell you, if 2016 maybe doesn't turn out the way it did, and let's say maybe after another year Franklin's gone, I have no doubt Matt Rule would have been the guy to come in there. And I think he's still got one eye on it. Like if it ever opens up, like I'd be surprised if he's not at least a prime candidate for the job. Now, again, not saying he's going to take the program to greater heights, but wouldn't be surprising if he, that's the one job I could see him leaving Nebraska for, assuming, of course, he does good enough to, be kept at Nebraska.
It looks like there's some thoughts from Franklin about the passing game.
Are you watching his press conference or?
No, I'm looking at some of the reporters' quotes from what he said about the passing game. So we weren't able to create separation. He did talk about that that Drew needs some guys to make some plays for him on a more consistent basis, and then looks like Drew's Aller was pretty teary-eyed after the game. He said somebody asked how he played, and he said I sucked. And then they said, "Why do you say that?" Because I did. So it's, I really hope that Penn State fans give him a break because, that's the kind of thing. He's already clearly pretty devastated.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure nobody feels more crappy about how Drew Aller played than Drew Aller himself. And again, it's why I'm finding like people bashing him or giving up on him 7 games into his career is ridiculous. Again, not to say he's going to become the elite quarterback where, hopefully he can be, but I think he will definitely get better. I think as he keeps getting more and more game experience, whatever that ends up being. Jennifer, why would any toppers correct me when Penn State that? You'd be surprised, Jennifer, at the power of having good recruiters. They can turn chicken salad, chicken into chicken salad. So
Jennifer's got a lot of thoughts.
Receivers and quarterbacks. That game.
There was something I just saw there.
Yeah, appreciate the comments, folks. By the way, I know I can't share all or most of them, but it's
Boglin is saying that Aller is starting to remind him of Hackenberg because he's doing all the kind of the checkdowns or the short throws. He hasn't thrown a pick, but I did note that he really hasn't taken a lot of chances. I'm not gonna. I get where you're coming.
That's too premature to compare him to Hack. I wouldn't compare him to Hack either. I think first of all, Hack struggled big time throwing those screens and quick slants. I mean, his long ball was great, but his short stuff was putrid. I mean, so I would not say he's like, and plus he can run the ball better. He can run with the ball better than Hack did. I mean, people say like Aller's a statue. No, Christian Hackenberg was a statue. So I mean, I don't agree with and Hack also wasn't the best at checking down to his guys. Like I feel like he kind of maybe fixated on one guy too often. And of course, it didn't help. He was playing under like a sanctioned O-line. O-line just was I think they didn't have like a full allotment of scholarship starters at one point. So he was just constantly running for his life, getting sacked. And Aller at least doesn't have to deal with that. So I disagree on the Hackenberg comparison. Yes, DDR, I agree. Definitely too early to give up on Aller.
Well, there's something there. I have to say that another reporter posted a clip of Franklin addressing the media, and he said, "I'm not sure if we didn't just watch two of the best teams in college football." That's that's tough to reconcile right now, but I mean, I appreciate the positivity, Coach.
Let's see.
Our boy Patrick was, I think, is of the similar mind of us in regards to that. So he was rather unhappy.
Time for Penn State ACC. I mean, is the ACC still going to be a thing in a few years? I mean, there's rumors that Clemson and Florida State might be leaving, and I don't know what they're going to do in response. I mean, they're not going anywhere. Hummus Hero. Oh, little Hummus. We talked on the on Mark's Big Ten live chat this past Monday. Without Mecca today, Marv stepped up and more than he usually does. He was a one-man offense. I agree. And on a day like this, when defense was keeping Penn State's offense almost totally in check, that's all you needed. This is a one-man offense. Penn State was like a no-man offense or a half-a-man offense at best. Let's see.
I was worried about Kate Stover going into the game, and I mean, he had a couple key plays for them as well, including that nice grab over Kobe King early in the game. Penn State's always kind of struggled against tight end, athletic tight end like bodies. We all remember Eric All. So that was a concern as well. I knew Harrison was you almost just had to assume he was going to get 125, 150, and you kind of had to just mitigate his damage. But it's interesting. It's the fact that team.
No, Jonathan, I'm not firing Lando from the show.
It's true. We are both bald. That's true. I would take the bullet for James if you want. Let's
see. Over national. I don't even know what.
I don't know what that's referring to.
I mean, I know there's a tunnel fight last year at Michigan, but national. I don't know what the name of the national anthem. Yeah, I see other Michigan fans are confused by that.
Oh, yeah, Jonathan has clarified he's talking about the other bald guy, not me.
I think he means tight ends coach Ty Howell, which no, I don't agree with that. But no, I mean seriously, like again, you fire Franklin, like who do you hire? Like, and how do you know you're gonna be any better? Like, very good chance they end up being worse. Like, this is, I mean, okay, maybe people are going to point to, well, look what Georgia did after they got rid of Mark Richt and got Kirby Smart. Like, okay, as if Kirby Smarts grow on freaking trees. Like, we're not Georgia. We're not, we don't have the infrastructure, the booster, the big money boosters that Georgia probably had with Mark Richt, and we're able to, help out to get Kirby Smart and give him everything he wanted. And it's just a different. I mean, yeah, it's there. Yeah, Urban Meyer. I mean, if I would actually make that happen, I'd think about it. But again, I don't know how Urban Meyer. I'm sure he'd be able to recruit, but he was doing this in a pre-NIL, pre-transfer portal world. And I just wonder how he would fare in this day and age of college football. I'm sure he'd do very well. Don't get it twisted, but would he still be able to recruit and just win at the level necessary? I guess I'm not sure. But I just see no way that Penn State hires Urban Meyer.
Okay, so they're clarifying with the tunnel situation. Apparently, during the national anthem, Penn State players and the coaching staff they were in the tunnel while Ohio State's were on the sidelines.
Oh, you mean during today? I thought they meant at
For
Michigan.
today's game. Yeah, I assumed they were talking about last year.
I didn't see anything. Like, I don't know what.
I wasn't
I
aware.
mean, they kept, so the Penn State players were just waiting in the tunnel during the anthem while
Right.
I mean, I don't know. Maybe they just want to keep the team. I have no idea, but frankly, it's kind of a silly thing to.
Yeah, Jennifer, sorry, that's my dog.
Mad at Penn State over. I mean, I don't even think it was a protesting type thing, if that's what is implying. Like, hire Bill O'Brien back. Look, I love Bill O'Brien. I'll always be grateful for what Bill O'Brien did during the worst of times. But no, I mean, have you seen the Patriots this year? Like, I just want to leave him in the past. Like, just enjoy the good moments we have and not have him come back and ruin that for me.
David, just so we're clear, neither of us is advocating firing Coach Franklin. That's not. I think it's just that there are enough people that we want to at least discuss.
Yes, Franklin does not. Sorry, Jim. Franklin does not call the plays. He hires his offensive coordinators to do that. Now, it was said before. I hope he's having some. I hope he's having some difficult conversations with Mike Yurcich, because that was just what we saw today was just unacceptable. Even knowing some of the limitations that we have in key parts of the offense, like, still could have, it could have looked a little better than it did. Frank was a good coach. I don't think there would never be a leap because record against top teams. I can't argue with you on that one. Now I know people like to cite there's a stat. It's like Franklin's like 3-15 against top 10 teams, something like that. And yeah, obviously not good, but people cite that as if like you're supposed to have a winning record against top 10 teams. I mean, most of the times you're playing a top 10 team, you're much lower ranked, or you're not even ranked, or like you're a heavy underdog. Like, it's just kind of it's kind of a weird stat for people to constantly cite. Like, I mean, does Nick Saban even have a winning record against top 10 teams? I mean, it's just well, maybe he's the only one who does have a winning record against top 10 teams, but it's just one of those things.
And Jim's saying he thinks it was mainly the receivers that made the difference. I mean, I think those of us that have watched Penn State the whole season, yes, we were waiting for a game like that where the receivers are going to make a difference, and we know that we've talked about the whole year that they don't have even a legitimate number one receiver, let alone receivers behind him. So that's.
Yeah, Matt is a very kind word to use, Jim. So I appreciate the Matt. I'd probably use a stronger word to describe the receiver play today. Let's see. Yeah, all the comments, folks. Getting a lot of engagement here. And just before we continue getting in, reminder: BlackShoeDiaries.com coverage on SB Nation's Penn State site. Cover football. Got winter sports coming up: wrestling, basketball, hockey. Actually, hockey is in full swing right now. They just started, I believe, last week. So, we got a hockey writer this year now again. So come check that out if you're a hockey person. And of course, hit like and subscribe here to the Voice of College Football channel if you haven't already. And now back to, and of course, we have our Discord channel. You can see it scrolling along in the bar down there. They can join that. Join the Patreon, Talk College Football 24/7, Mark and us. And also, speaking of Mark, he'll be doing his live show per usual on this Voice of College Football channel, 11:30 Eastern tonight. So if you want to voice your opinions about today's game or anything else on your mind for college football, there's your place to do it. This is a year where Auer needs a tree like Gesicki. Yeah, would have been nice, or having a Pat Fryer move would have been nice, but I mean, I don't think it would have changed the outcome of the game. You still need to have a couple receivers who can actually gain separation and can, be consistent for you, and you just don't have it. Yes, Jared said it. Penn State's offense just doesn't have the dudes. Agreed on that front.
I know we've seen a couple comments about the offensive line, and I think that's worth discussing a little bit. And
yeah,
don't get me wrong, I love Olu Fashanu, but do we think he's a little bit? I don't know. I mean, I don't even say it. I wouldn't. Maybe he hasn't been quite as dominant as people have expected, and not that it's all on him, certainly. But the offensive line I think is definitely a concern. I saw a comment, and sorry, I don't remember who it was, that they've had one good offensive line since '99, and I'd be interested to know if you think that was 2005 or 2008 or another year.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously this O-line was much hype going into the season. Hasn't been as advertised. They haven't been terrible, mind you, but I've definitely seen we've seen some pretty bad O-lines, in the last several weeks, but it's been somewhat of a disappointment. Now, granted, I think I thought they did a good enough job in pass protection today. The real problem was just, Auer and the receivers just not being in sync. And, of course, the receivers in general just not being able to get separation, get open that much. And, yeah, and, well, maybe Penn State could have tried to pound the rock a little bit more frequently, at least before Ohio State was gradually building a lead. But the O-line hasn't quite been what we anticipated. They're not terrible, not great either. They've been good enough, I guess you could say, but certainly disappointing compared to what high hopes we had for. But I mean, Olu Fashanu is still going to be like a top 5 draft pick in all likelihood. So I think this game is not going to affect his draft stock at all. Frank was a great recruit, doesn't make the right in-game decisions under pressure. I mean, that can be it's definitely a legit criticism. Sometimes he's made, in the past, I know in games he's made maybe early in the game from midfield going forward on 4th down and then not converting. So then you give the other team very good field position. They go on to score a touchdown, things like that. So I see what you mean by that. I will say today there was a similar situation. It was early on in the game. We had a 4th down and 3 I forget what it was, 4th and short at midfield. And originally we were going to go for it and then end up calling a timeout, thought twice about it and decided it'd be smart, just punt it away, try to pin him back and have your defense do its thing. So he wisened up in that sense. But sometimes, he does sometimes becomes a little too aggressive, when he doesn't need to be, because he, again, pressure situations like that. So I can see where that criticism comes from. Yes, don't forget where Franklin got. Yes, I think this needs to be hammered. This needs to be hammered over the heads of, not, of the Penn State fans who are clamoring for a change after this. be careful what you wish for.
Mm-hmm.
I'll say it again and again and again. Like, yeah, I'm as frustrated as you. Like, and yeah, Franklin deserves whatever criticism he's been getting following this game, but like, yeah, firing him is just asinine. Like, that's not even. I don't even know why we even spent most of the show talking about that. But I feel the need to address it every time, you know, we lose a game like this. So, let's see. Yes, thank you, Jared. You said it. Like, I wouldn't get greedy. As a Michigan fan, you could end up getting Rich Rod or Hoke and be effed. That would be exactly my fear if, again, if Franklin quit tomorrow, we very good chance we end up hiring a Brady Hoke type or Rich Rodriguez who's just not a good fit, and we end up being like a perennial 7-8 win team instead of 9 or 10. So
Looks like some Michigan fan PTSD with with Hoke and Rich Rod.
yeah, I mean, I
Okay,
can't blame them. They definitely had some pretty bad moments from both those eras. I mean,
Mike would like us to call them "They Must Not Be Named," I guess. I suppose.
Hoke's still clapping. Still clapping without a headset, probably. He was like one of the last coaches, not named Joe Paterno, that I knew who didn't wear a headset on the sideline. Just going for the comments here. Anything? Franklin stepped down from O'Brien to be on. I don't know about that. I mean, Franklin clearly he knows how to build a program. Like, he's done that. He's built Penn State into like a team that, I mean, it's basically, I'll say this feels like the Penn State football I grew up following beginning like in the early 90s. They were a team that would regularly win like 9-10 games a year. And yeah, they would, unfortunately they would sometimes lose the big big games a little too often for our liking, but they would beat on the other teams they were supposed to beat, and rarely lost games that they had no business losing. So that's where Franklin's basically got the program at now. I mean, O'Brien just doesn't strike me as a guy who knows how to build a program. Like, he was good at taking over. I mean, at the time, he was really good at stabilizing a sinking ship, just rallying the troops and whatnot. But just seeing how his tenure at the Houston Texans played out, especially once they gave him GM capabilities, I mean, it was a disaster. I mean, O'Brien's a guy that you would want maybe as your play caller. You know what? I would be fine bringing Bill O'Brien back as an offensive coordinator. How does that sound?
I don't think he would take it, but that's
I'm not saying take it. I'm just saying,
yeah.
If hypothetically I'd be, Bill O'Brien really wanted to come back, I'd be fine bringing him as a coordinator, because I think that his thing. Although, seeing how the Patriots are struggling this year, you also got to give. I mean, any good coordinator, you got to give him the players. What's that old adage? It's not the X's and the O's, it's the Jimmies and the Joes.
Yeah.
Oh, Rusty Jess. Yes, we've been talking about this most of the time. Portal time for receiver, new offensive coordinator. I mean, I feel like you got to hit the portal for some receivers. I mean, I know they got a couple recruits in 2024. There's one, Tyser Denmark out of Pennsylvania. And also Peter Gonzalez. His dad is former Pitt quarterback Pete Gonzalez, but he's been looking pretty impressive too. But I agree. Got to get some portal guys because you don't want to be relying on true freshmen. Actually, that's actually a position I'm really curious to see what happens this offseason. I got to imagine I read something, we have like 11, 12 scholarship receivers. There's going to be a mass, there's going to be several of them hitting the portal, I would imagine, to make room for some other guys that they're going to try to bring in. You saw them on like, hey, you're good enough to get separation from people. We got a strong arm quarterback that can feed you the rock. Come play for us. New offensive coordinator. Look, again, I think Franklin may have to have some difficult conversations with Yurcich, about this offense. He can't. I can't imagine he's pleased with where it is or where he would have expected it to be, especially with year 3 under him, and also having his prize quarterback recruit now, running the offense. But again, I'm not getting paid the big bucks to make those decisions, so we'll see. Yeah, Double Dogleg agrees with my idea of Bill O'Brien as coordinator. Franklin needs to buy some coaching. Perhaps. Well, I'll say I think he has, at this point, with that extension he signed 2 years ago, he basically has a blank check when it comes to hiring assistants. Like, his assistant salary pool is pretty much what he wants it to be at this point. So that's how he was able to get Manny Diaz right after Diaz got fired at Miami. And yeah, if he decides, to make a change, move on from Yurcich after this season, I'm sure he can write a nice fat check to, whatever offensive coordinator targets he's looking at. Left Bo Prabula and Trey Potts on the bench. I guess I wouldn't have minded maybe if they threw in a Bo Prabula package at one point during the game, but I don't think it would have made a difference in the outcome ultimately. But there maybe were a couple portions I'm thinking, wouldn't hurt to just throw this wrinkle at them and just see how they react.
And the Trey Potts, it seems like since he had the one breakout game, he really has disappeared back to the bench. And in today's situation, I think he would have been probably as successful, if not more, than Allen and Singleton. I think the issue with Prabula, is that he doesn't really give the dimension that they would need, which was a more accurate passer. He's not quite there passing the ball. So I get. Maybe just to change things up, perhaps you put him in. Maybe instead of the Condry Lambert Smith pass, you put Bo out there receiver and he throws the pass. Maybe. But yeah, I'm not sure how much good that a package for either of those would have done today. But certainly, you would love to see some more creativity, or at least maybe recognizing when they're consistent running the ball to continue running the ball, and vice versa with the passing game, and not kind of be stubborn and trying to get a balance when a balance might not be the best decision, coaching wise.
Yeah, make sure if I forget, I got a couple of paid comments here. Thank you for the $2, Emil Robinson. Michigan beats both teams by at least 2 touchdowns. Wouldn't surprise me.
Hard to go against that right now. Anyway,
although I don't know, maybe now they can't steal signals so easily. Maybe that could change things. But
James
Crypto Ducat. Why is Penn? Thank you for $5. Why is Penn State not want to say Jane Franklin's a problem? 10 effing years. I don't see I guess I haven't looked at what the Penn State media has been writing, but they seem to be pretty critical of Franklin from what I've noticed. And when you say he's I mean, like, again, are you suggesting that, they get rid of him? And if so, who do we hire again? Like, and again, Franklin, look, I mean, yeah, as frustrated as Robin would say, he's also the reason that Penn State's in the position that it's in today, where they're even like entertaining the thought of like beating the elite teams. So,
James Fisher had a really interesting comment there. Is our goal a title or 10-2? If it's 10-2, play Aller. If it's a title shot, wow, that's quite a take. That's quite a take.
Yeah, that's a hot take.
I would love to know why.
I gotta see Prabula. I mean, yeah, you have your complaints on how Aller threw it today, but I mean, not like Prabula's arm is better by any means.
Yeah, I would
obviously Prabula can run. That's his, that's his main thing. But he's
I would love to know what Bo has shown
the arm,
other than again his athleticism. What has he shown that would put him ahead of Aller, I guess. Yeah, Mike's right. Yeah, they were saying that about Aller. He's right. He's right that that's. I know we talked about it in our Slack chat a lot of the year that Clifford was kind of the comfortable game manager, reliable type that was going to get them to 10-2, and then Aller would have been the thing that would take him over the top. And it's easy to to say the grass is greener. So Bo has leadership and athleticism, but I mean, Aller's got a little bit of escapability. I don't get the leadership part of it. I think they both
like Aller doesn't have leadership.
I'm not with you on that. So I guess your overall point is because the running backs are so explosive that having a more running quarterback would fit the offense. But I think that's his point, is that you just kind of go that then you would be going all in on a run first offense, even more so. I think that's where you get in trouble by basically committing to being one-dimensional versus trying to have some semblance of a passing game in addition to the to complement the running backs. That's interesting.
Yeah, but anyway, we've done this for about an hour now. I think we've kind of talked circles around, like going for the same topics over and over again. But we appreciate all the engagement in the comments section and the viewership, especially over 150 of you tuning in. Don't get why people love James Franklin. Well, I mean, ask the players and their families, current and former, why they love Franklin. I mean, he, very, very genuine, like personal guy. And look, I know, today was frustrating, but he's been able to recruit, he's been able to get more money put into the program that was desperately needed. Frankly, that was neglected for so long during like the last, couple decades under Paterno, and just, we've been dragging us into modern day college football. And now he's finally, in the last year, I'd say he's got an athletic director and a president who share his vision, who are all rowing the same direction as him. And so they're all trying to just get Penn State caught up to speed in terms of resources, infrastructure, like other, top tier programs. And so, again, I know, he's obviously like, it's been very frustrating watching us lose games, like big games like this on a regular basis. But again, we're just about hitting our ceiling right now. I'd say maybe we have hit our ceiling, frankly. Like, actually, before we go, we got a $20 comment.
Yeah.
Oh, Crypto Ducat again. Thank you for another donation. None of the main guys quit. Has got to take the program to the next level. I mean, we've been talking about this for, last hour or so. I mean, again, if Franklin doesn't do it, I don't know who else will. Unless if we could somehow get Urban Meyer out of retirement, maybe. And again, like I said, Urban Meyer hasn't had to build a program in the portal and NIL era, so we just don't know. But again, there's no one else that Penn State's realistically going to get who we can just point and say, yeah, that's who's going to get us beating Ohio State on a regular basis. They're just not there.
And Mike wants us to hire Keegan Michael Key because that way no one will know the difference. That's.
That would be. There you go. Yeah.
Yeah.
I could maybe get on board with that. Yeah, at least if we get a guy named Aaron who messes up, he can. We can hear him talk about how Ron messed up.
Right.
Yep. We're going to go on this comments. Penn State's married to Franklin and the divorce is too messy and expensive. Agreed, Andrew. Yeah, he's not going anywhere unless he decides himself he's done. He's not getting fired, folks. And no, John, Joe Moorhead, loved him as a coordinator, but the head coach, he's left a little more to be desired. I don't think he'd be able to recruit at the level Franklin has had, and actually that would bring down the ceiling for the program under him. Oh, we got some more. Damn, Crypto Cat, just dropping the $20 in the hat. For Harbaugh's done it. Anyone has done it. It's been has lots of the team like Illinois and Iowa. Okay, that was. What's your point? That was 2 years. That was 2 years ago when, we were still coming out of a sticky situation with COVID and, whatnot. I'm definitely not losing inferior teams now with the makeup of this team. And also, I remember just 2 years ago, Michigan fan base was ready to run Jim Harbaugh out of town. So, people were saying the same things people were saying about Franklin right now. They were saying the exact same things about Jim Harbaugh. And so, they're not the guy to get it done until they are the guy that gets it done. So, and since Franklin's not going anywhere anytime soon, hopefully will be the guy that gets it done at some point. So that's where I'm going to end it. Thanks everyone for tuning in, for all your comments, and for all the paid comments too. Appreciate it. Lando, any final thoughts?
I just got to look at the film. I like that, Aller talked about it being critical of the film. So rather than just kind of trying to forget about it, really trying to, improve on, where they need to. Just got to kind of refocus and get ready for Indiana next week.
Yep. And that's when we'll see again for the post game of Indiana next Saturday. Until then, enjoy the rest of your college football Saturday.